And among the most committed followers of this drama in Pakistan are the people and policy makers of India, I dare say. Because the impact on them could be direct. It's hard to say what's more dangerous for India, a stable Pakistan or an unstable Pakistan. It's been a perpetual nuisance. And it's now the very picture of chaos. What's worse, it's not alone. India's neighbourhood is in crisis mode. We've already told you about what's happening in Pakistan. The chaos is creating room for more terrorists. It is giving oxygen to the likes of ISIS, the Islamic State. They're reviving themselves in Pakistan. To India's east is China, accelerating its nuclear buildup. This could further destabilize the security of South Asia. Down south, Sri Lanka is struggling to stay afloat. They're broke. Colombo could run out of medicine soon. Sri Lankan refugees are landing in India. And another neighbour struggling economically is Nepal, so much so that they've banned imports of luxury goods. Nepal wants to cut back on its import bills. This is India's neighbourhood. Put these stories together on the map and you see the challenge that India faces. Any instability could spill over. India is sitting in a difficult neighbourhood. Not something Delhi chose, but something it must learn to live with. Again, we'll start with Pakistan. You already know about the drama in the run-up to Imran Khan's ouster. It confirms how weak the civilian leadership is. And amid this chaos, a terrorist group is reviving itself. I'm talking about the Islamic State. It has found a new base in Pakistan, and no surprises there. Pakistan has the perfect ecosystem to revive ISIS. And the Islamic State is making the most of it. It is stepping up attacks. The most recent one happened last month. A mosque was bombed in Peshawar. It was a suicide attack. 60 worshippers died that day, 6-0. Reports say the bomber came from Kabul. The ISIS have struck more targets. I'll share some numbers with you. Pakistan has seen 52 terror attacks by March this year. Last year it saw 35 attacks in the same period. So the number of attacks has increased dramatically. And these attacks have been carried out by various groups, but the Islamic State was behind the worst of the lot. More specifically, the Islamic State Khorasan or ISIS-K, the same terror group that bombed the Kabul airport last year, it has shifted its focus on Pakistan, say some reports. The ISIS-K is piggybacking off existing Pakistani terror groups. A majority of its members are said to have been from the Lashkar-e-Jangvi. They simply moved over. And now they're stepping up attacks inside Pakistan, and this presents a direct security challenge, not just for Islamabad, but also New Delhi. Challenge number 2, China. It is deploying more nuclear weapons. China is rapidly building more nuclear silos. The construction is happening in Yumen. This is in western China. Reports say China is building about 120 silos here. Why the sudden buildup? There has been a shift in China's security strategy, it seems. Beijing fears it could clash with American forces over Taiwan. It wants more deterrence, something that would force the US to stay away from Taiwan. And the answer, Beijing believes, is nuclear weapons. Now, with these new silos, China could double the size of its nuclear arsenal. The same nukes can easily be pointed towards India too. And that's why India needs to worry. A bigger nuclear arsenal could give incentives to Beijing to attempt more misadventures at the border. China has created another problem for India, and that's down south. Sri Lanka's debt crisis. It's worsening by the day. And there's a dangerous shortage of medicines in Sri Lanka right now. Reports say Colombo is almost out of life-saving medicines. Doctors are now being forced to make difficult choices. They have to decide who gets treatment and who's left out. Sri Lanka's dire straits and situation is forcing more people to leave. On Sunday, 19 more Sri Lankan refugees landed in India. They reached Rameshwaram in 2 boats. So far, 39 refugees from Sri Lanka have come to India. Reports say many more could be on their way. Last week, the Indian mission in Sri Lanka ruled out a major refugee crisis. But the situation in Colombo is not improving. The anti-government protests are escalating. Protesters have now pitched tents outside the presidential secretariat. The opposition is gunning for the Rajapaksas. They want a change of guard before the negotiations with the IMF. They want to talk about a bailout with the IMF. A new government with a new prime minister should do that. That's what the opposition said. And it could happen. In parliament, the Rajapaksas are in minority. A no confidence motion is being talked about. It could be moved if it succeeds. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa could be ousted. And he spoke out today. He assured his government that his government, in fact, is doing everything to tide over this crisis. So what is Sri Lanka's plan for a bailout? That they technically have a finance minister in Ali Sabri, and he shared some details over the weekend.
Basically, if we can restore the supply chain, if we can provide these necessities on time, we can get our tourism back on track. That will bring dollars in. We need to protect our export industry. We need to protect our supply chain. So if we can do that, I feel if we can, I mean, the numbers are still being worked out. I just taken over a day or two ago. But the rough figure is probably we need about 3 billion infusion during the next 3 to 6 month time from now to 3 to 6 months for us to meaningfully come out of it.
So Sri Lanka expects $3 billion from the IMF. How much is Colombo's total foreign debt? $51 billion, according to one estimate. Will $3 billion be enough? Colombo believes it will be enough for them to tide over the crisis, at least for the next 3 years. And this is at best a stopgap arrangement. Sri Lanka will have to do more, and it is going to need more help. So will Nepal. Nepal too is facing an economic crisis. It has been forced to ban imports of luxury items. That's because it doesn't have the money to support them. Nepal's foreign exchange reserves are rapidly declining. In February, they had dropped below $10 billion. That's enough, good enough in fact, to fund imports for around 6.5 months. Prices of essential commodities like fuel and food are shooting up. So the reserves may deplete at a faster rate. South Asia, in fact, is going through a tough time. Governments are falling apart, leaders are losing power, there's economic distress, millions are struggling to make ends meet. And this has triggered a lot of backlash too. There are new and emerging security threats. And this instability cannot be dismissed as temporary. It is throwing up serious challenges for India, challenges that need a proactive response and not reactive initiatives. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.